Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you on this Friday evening. Got a great show for you guys today. We're going to have a fun Friday, including a couple of ridiculous stories that they're not actually news, but it's just fun. First, we're going to talk about Rudy Giuliani using some dubious sources to try to debunk the Mueller report, which hasn't come out yet. And the Steele dossier. So I've got my thoughts about that, but we'll have some fun. We'll talk about that. Then we've got Donald Trump versus his caddy. Fun times. Trump, then more serious stuff, of course, corruption, including Donald Trump's campaign, putting lots of donor money back into Trump's businesses. Shocker. Then we're going to talk about somebody who quit Fox News. Very, very relevant since we had some anti-Muslim violence. Not only in the United States, of course, but we've had it in New Zealand. So it's very relevant, very topical. Then we have Hickenlooper, John Hickenlooper, watching porno with his mom. That's a fun story. Again, I told you, we're going to have some fun on this Friday. And then if we get to it, Bernie Sanders puts together an awesome new progressive team. That should be a great story, so you'll enjoy that. Okay, anyway. So, please, if you haven't already, like and share the stream. Helps out. I want to thank some patrons, of course. Patreon.com/TYTNation. So, I'm going to give a few shout-outs here. One to Ahmad Henry, Chris Akala, Dorothy Zink, Linda, Charles Goodman, Jasmine Man, Howard Chen. Some of these I've probably already said before, so I apologize. Michael Cuomo, Zach Sewell, and let's see. Go down here. Somebody that I haven't mentioned. We have Kenyon Bunny. There you go. So thanks to all those who have donated through our Patreon campaign, patreon.com/TYTNation. That's how we stay independent. That's how we stay progressive. So, and on the air, because we're always going to be progressive. It's just the on the air part a little bit difficult if we don't have support. And so, thank you for that. Okay, a couple of interesting things here that's going on today. For one, the Democratic Party, the DCCC, has just made it harder for insurgent campaigns to mount primary challenges against establishment Democrats. So I don't quite have the details of this, but apparently the DCCC will no longer support vendors that do primary challenges or help work on primary challenges, basically depriving progressive insurgents with vital support. So that's going to make it difficult for someone like, for example, another AOC to get elected, or another Ilhan Omar, or another Ayanna Pressley. And make no mistake, this was a shot across the bow to progressives to say, know your place. And also to say, we hate primaries. Because, let's be honest, they do hate primaries. The establishment does. And they want to shut down any primary challenges to their incumbent candidates, which is a spot hypocritical when you consider that there has been talk about primarying Ilhan Omar from the right. Now, look, I believe in primaries. I'm consistent. You want to primary Ilhan Omar? Go ahead. Be my guest. You want to primary AOC? Be my guest. But you can't go then sit back and say, oh, no, don't ever do primaries. Don't ever primary incumbent Democrats. You're going to hurt party unity. You're going to hurt party unity, and you're going to make it easier for Republicans to win. Get out of here with that BS. Especially, as I said, you trying to primary Ilhan Omar. Nobody believes it. Nobody's buying it. It's BS. Okay. Anyway. Now. Fun times. So let's head on over to our first story. Oh, apparently breaking, the Mueller report has been released. At least let me verify that. Let me double check this here, and see. Let's see. But that's what I'm seeing on the chat feeds. Breaking: Special Counsel Mueller has submitted his report to Attorney General Barr, according to NBC News. So that just happened a couple of minutes ago. So we'll see. We'll see what happens on this, and it's going to be a very interesting weekend. And some of our stories, of course, have a lot to do with the Mueller investigation, with the Mueller report. So fascinating. Okay. That said, let's hit the first story here, which is related. So let's do it. Okay. Yes, submitted to Barr. Not released. So. Okay. So Rudy Giuliani is Donald Trump's lawyer, and he's just done a bang-up job. Now, recently, he got mocked on social media after he tried to disprove collusion. Now, look, the Mueller report has been delivered to, William Barr, and look, it might be released to the public soon. I don't know if they plan on releasing it to the public. And look, to be honest, I am actually kind of worried that the Mueller report will be a bit of a letdown. I think it might be a little too narrowly focused in collusion and doesn't really examine any potential financial crimes, which I really think is where you would actually get Donald Trump. Now, I think the focus on collusion, bit of a waste of time, given that Trump, of course, as I said, has likely perpetrated other crimes. Nonetheless, Giuliani and Trump seem to be super focused on disproving collusion. In fact, there's a recent report where now Donald Trump is greeting reporters with no collusion, no collusion. Okay, yeah, fun. Now, Rudy Giuliani, of course, in his infinite wisdom, attempted to disprove the Steele dossier, which, of course, has some salacious stuff in it, along with alleging collusion, and he tried to do that by citing some dubious sources. Wikipedia. Now, Giuliani tweeted out, since 2009, Steele has not been to Russia or visited any former Soviet states, and on 2012, an Orbis informant quoted a SFB agent describing him as an enemy of Mother Russia. I don't know why I'm doing that in the Trump voice. The sort of Trump voice. Okay. Okay, you're going to believe, what? A Russian agent saying that, oh, no, Steele is an enemy of Mother Russia, so you shouldn't believe him at all. Look, I don't believe Steele. Not necessarily. I actually believe that we need more evidence on that. But Giuliani continues, the below excerpt from Wikipedia, if true, is another indication that the Steele dossier about Russia is a phony work of political opposition research. Comey never bothered to check when Steele was last in Russia, so where was it written and who wrote it? We demand answers. Again, I've had my doubts about the Steele dossier, I'll be honest about that. I think some parts have been proven to be more or less true, but others not so much. So I would consider it not quite a reliable source of information. And yeah, certainly, again, a lot of salacious stuff. That said, when you're talking about sources, Wikipedia, not such a good source, given that anybody has the power to edit Wikipedia entries at any time. When you can go in and edit entries, then you can't necessarily trust what things say. Especially when the people anybody who can edit it, well, what if somebody comes in there with a political agenda and says, I'm just going to change this so that it matches what I'm saying? And then, of course, you have Giuliani himself claiming that, look, I don't know if this is actually true. Even at the same time, claiming that if true, it would completely destroy Steele's credibility. You want to talk about credibility? You just quoted Wikipedia. You're supposed to be a lawyer. Lawyers aren't supposed to quote Wikipedia. Obviously, of course, this flawed analysis based on flimsy evidence. Got a lot of pushback on social media, which is fun. I'm going to start with reading a few tweets. Patrick Monahan tweets in, very cool report. What grade are you in? I would guess probably about 8th. Not to, of course, be, at all dismissive of 8th graders. Tim says, Grandpa Munster uses the internets. Oldman Battle Angel says, see me after class. See me after class. Law Professor Blog says, breaking news, legal professors across the country frantically email students to remind them of the obvious that they should not do things like this. When I was in college, and I'm pretty sure it hasn't changed, we would get basically flunked. We would get failed. Our papers would not be accepted if we used Wikipedia as a source. That is a no-no. And again, it's because, of course, not that everything on Wikipedia is wrong, it's that it can be edited at any time, so it's not necessarily a trustworthy source. Billy D says, Your Honor, I'd like to submit the following evidence. This excerpt from Wikipedia, if true. Grade A lawyering, Rudolph. This guy's a lawyer. How is he a lawyer? I don't understand how someone this dumb can actually be a lawyer. Edward DeRuchier says, we're so lucky to have you as Trump's lawyer. David Nunes' bunny says, whatever you say, Rudy Kaludi. And Allison M.I. says, boy, that didn't take long. And finally, I always love it when people do this. Quote, sir, this is a Wendy's drive-thru. Look, on a serious note, this is a guy who was charged with defending Donald Trump on the Mueller investigation. No lawyer worth anyone's salt would ever offer a defense from such a dubious source. But again, look at Rudy Giuliani. There was basically a blackout on him where he would not go on TV because he kept saying stupid things. But that said, he and Donald Trump deserve each other. They're both incredibly dumb people. And the scary thing is, and this is what I always worry about, if the Mueller report is what I'm fearing to be underwhelming and not enough evidence or not enough wrongdoing on the part of Donald Trump that is provable, and that's crazy to say, by the way. But if the scope of this investigation and the findings were too narrow and only looking at collusion during the 2016 election, and they don't find anything enough to, get him with some sort of financial crime or whatever, then these guys could both walk away and declare victory. I mean, again, they'll be like, we were right all along. No collusion, but you ignore the 47 other different crimes that you're doing right now, that you're being caught. And look, I think that would be a huge shame. But at the end of the day, if that happens, the Democrats will not touch him because they focus so much on one single thing. So, today, this could be good or this could be maddening. We'll have to see. Okay. I know it got a little heavy at the end there, but let's move on. Just a fun little story. All right. So Donald Trump loves to golf. No, I don't have a problem with that. I like to golf. In fact, I can't wait till it gets warm enough here in Michigan for me to go out and hit the golf course. I enjoy doing it, and so does the President of the United States. So I don't have a problem with that. I maybe have a little bit of a problem with him golfing more than President Obama had, after then previously complaining that President Obama had golfed more than he had actually done anything, which is both ironic and funny, as Donald Trump has spent so much time on the golf course, And when he's not able to get to the golf course, installing a $50,000 golf simulator in the White House using taxpayer money. That's it. Politico had published an excerpt from a new book, shocking, right? Called Commander-in-Chief, How Golf Explains Trump. Now, this was a book by sports writer Rick Riley. Now, the title explores Donald Trump's relationship with golf. That is an angle that I never thought that I would see, but okay. As well as his relationships with his current caddy, identified as AJ, and his former caddy turned staffer, Dan Scavino. One brief passage details an exchange that came a result of Trump's anger at a wayward drive, which again, I think I understand because I've had plenty of those terrible drives. Now, Riley wrote in the excerpt, quote, "One time, after a bad drive, Trump slammed his driver back in his bag, as guys will do, and really wasn't watching what he was doing. And the driver ricocheted back and hit Trump right in the head. AJ, Trump asked, pissed, did you just hit me in the back of the head with my old driver? To which he responded, Sir, Mr. Trump, why would I do that? You're my president. Now, the excerpt from Commander-in-Chief looks at AJ, described as a 60-something ex-Marine, bending over backwards to praise Trump as they loop around one of his home courses, Trump National Golf Club, Washington. So now, again, this is funny because this illustrates who Donald Trump is. And I never thought that you would really look at him through the angle of golf, which seems kind of like strange, but also makes a little bit of sense when you think about it. Because look, Donald Trump has been accused of getting very, very angry, missing drives, and also cheating at golf. So, cheating, lying, getting mad, and now blaming his caddy for when he hit himself in the head. Did you hit me in the head? Hey, Jay. No, I didn't hit you in the head. Was somebody hit me in the head? And it wasn't me. No, but it was you. It was you. Again, you wouldn't think that he would be so petty as to blame someone else for something that he obviously did. But again, this shows you who he is. The fact that he can't take responsibility for anything that happens. So, and look, at the end of the day, as I keep saying, the more that we learn about Donald Trump, the more sad and pathetic he continues to be. Okay. Speaking of sad and pathetic, Caddyshack. Come on, guys. I may be too old for this reference. For some of you. Okay. Right. A new analysis of Donald Trump's campaign filings has revealed that Trump's campaign had spent $1.3 million of donor money or took that money and spent it on his own businesses. Now, this is documentation that was filed by the president's re-election campaign and reviewed by Forbes. And it revealed that the Trump campaign spent $1.3 million at Trump businesses for rent, food, lodging, and other expenses since he took office in 2016. Now, part of that includes $800,000 the campaign had paid to Trump Tower Commercial LLC. Now, that's the holding company through which the president reportedly holds interest in the Trump Tower located on Fifth Avenue, and $54,000 to Trump Plaza LLC, which controls property that includes 2 apartment buildings in New York City, according to the analysis. Each of those payments has been listed as rent in the documentation filed by the president's campaign, according to Forbes. Now, the 2020 effort has also reportedly paid $60,000 to Trump's Restaurants LLC, which is another holding company linked to Trump Tower. Now, is anyone here shocked that the president is using shady maneuvers to direct donor money to go through his businesses and back into his own pocket. I mean, are you at all shocked? His donors spend money on Trump properties, cite that it's, rent or other things related to his campaign, and again, it goes right back into his pocket. I don't understand how that could be, how that is not illegal in our system. It has to be. It has to be. But of course, since it is being used, no, it's our campaign, and we're taking donor money, and what we're using it for is to help the campaign. And it just so happens that we ended up spending it at Trump properties. That directly benefits the President of the United States. Isn't it nice that we live in a system where your campaign can basically benefit, or I'm sorry, your campaign can basically pay rent to itself or to the organization that you own, and then you end up getting all the money? I mean, it's gross corruption. You want to talk about the swamp, right? This is the swamp. Now, the president is also currently facing a lawsuit for doing something like this, brought by the state of Maryland in the District of Columbia, that accused him of unconstitutionally profiting off the office of the presidency by accepting payments through his D.C. hotel, which again is pretty much what he's doing through those other properties as well. I mean, way to drain the swamp right back into your own pocket. I think he should have been forced to completely divest from all of his businesses, right? I mean, they made Carter give up his peanut farm. But Donald Trump can still have a stake in Trump hotels and benefit greatly when his own campaign uses donor money at those restaurants and hotels. I mean, look, yes, sure, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump are technically running his businesses, but come on. We know, pretty sure, that Donald Trump is calling the shots here. Mainly because he doesn't trust Eric and Donald Jr. And you know why? It's because they're even dumber than their dad. And we know that because there are stories where Trump reportedly said or made fun of Donald Trump Jr.'s IQ. So when Senior Trump thinks Junior Trump is not very bright, you're going to run into some problems. But of course, the issue here, the more important issue than how stupid one of the Trump sons is, or both, is the corruption. Look, his entire point here is to make money for himself. And the entire presidency is basically a scam to get richer. I mean, that's what Donald Trump does. He runs scams. He is a scam artist that somehow got elected to the presidency, likely because he ran one of the biggest scams in the country. I mean, just look at the long history. Look at the Trump Foundation. That was found to be a scam that, unsurprisingly, sent money to himself. Not only that, but you had him running a fake scam university. That was also dissolved because it was found to have been a scam. That's what he does. He runs grifts. He runs scams and he makes money off them. He's not a legitimate billionaire. In fact, one of the recent scams, not recent, but recent scams that I reported that actually went back a lot of years, back to like 1998, probably sooner, earlier, is that he lied and to borrow money from Deutsche Bank. So over the course of a couple decades, he borrowed about $2 billion from Deutsche Bank. Lost all that money, went broke, defaulted on loans, sued Deutsche Bank, settled with them, to which the bank kept loaning him even more money. And during the process of actually applying for those loans, he ended up overvaluing his properties by about 70% and also overstating his net worth. He claimed to be worth, $3 billion. where he was actually worth about $788 million, according to the assessors at Deutsche Bank. He's not a billionaire. A billionaire doesn't need to scam people. A billionaire doesn't need to run these kinds of ridiculous scams where he ends up, ironically, making the swamp bigger. So this is the corruption, and this is indicative of who he is. And the sooner you understand that, the whole point was to use you, regular people who may have voted for Donald Trump because they wanted change, they wanted something better. He was just using you so that he can get rich. Because that's who he is, and that's what he's always wanted to do. Okay. I'm going to take a break. We'll come back. We got more stories here, including Fox News. Somebody working at Fox News that quit because of Islamophobia. That's interesting. So we'll do that. We'll come back with that, read some super chats and some member comments as well. So send in those, and I can't wait to see your comments. All right. We'll take a break. We'll be right back around the nation. everybody, welcome back. Around the Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. So I've got some great comments here, as well as a super chat. Let's start with that. Romantic Warrior 1 says, the establishment, both Democrat and GOP, or Dem and GOP, proved that that they are against the progressive agenda. They are waging a campaign to get us to fight against each other. Let's not eat our own. Look, I hear you on that. And progressives do need to stick with each other. It's just that it's proven to be a very difficult thing to do for some people. And not to get too much into it, but there seems to be a lot of infighting about who's more progressive than who, etc. And really, all you have to do is just kind of look at the policies to see where that's at. And it's okay that some people are less progressive on certain issues. And I think what's great about primaries is that you can vote for those people. And so that's why I'm in favor of more primaries, different viewpoints. I think there's some candidates that've got a lot of great ideas. And there are candidates, that I'd be willing to support if Bernie Sanders does not get the nomination. So, but I am really hoping for him. And yes, I've taken an open stance about how I would like Bernie Sanders to win the nomination, but I also want everybody else to have an open mind. So if you're like somebody who likes Elizabeth Warren, I'm not going to sit there and fight you and call you a shill, because I think some of her ideas are fantastic. And although I am a little concerned that she backs away from Medicare for all, that doesn't mean that in the absence of, Bernie Sanders, that I wouldn't vote in favor of her, and that I wouldn't be unhappy voting for her. And so we can all have our perspectives, but you're right, we do need to stick with each other against the establishment, because after all, they are the biggest enemy to progress. Okay, anyway, let's move on. We've got some comments here. Let's talk, let's see, let's get the one here from Elwell. Says, imagine what we could accomplish with all the time and resources dedicated to propping up such a subpar human being as Trump. Then multiply that by all those subpar rich folks out there. That's a fantastic point. I think there was a saying out there, and I can't remember it specifically, but and so I'll kind of have to paraphrase it, but it's like capitalism. It's not that capitalism can't afford the poor, it's we can't afford the rich. And so we can't support the rich. And I think that's a really good point, because what we have is that we have a group of people on the top that are siphoning off resources. These are people, ironically, that are the welfare queens. They don't work for anything. They never worked for anything, and yet they continue to reap rewards that basically they haven't earned. Whereas, of course, you have people on the bottom that are working their asses off 2-3 jobs and can't seem to get a break, and they're the ones that are called lazy. And it's pretty ridiculous, but that's unfortunately how our system works, and that is unsustainable. Sarge Tech, going back to the Mueller report here, says if the Mueller report shows nothing done by Trump, then Trump will become the victim and scream, "I told you so." The amount of, I think, crowing Donald Trump will do if that situation happens will be, you think he's unbearable now. He's going to be totally unbearable. I told you, no collusion. No collusion, fake news. I was right. And just imagine how much more empowered he'll be. Oh boy. Iceberg dead ahead. Then the Sierra with the final comment says, I think the bank is where the collusion was. So if we're talking about Deutsche Bank, which is also referred to in some circles as the world's laundromat because they've been laundering money for people. Look, I've often said that you want to catch Donald Trump doing crime, catch him in his financial history. Look at his tax returns. Look at his finances. Look at where he's been getting money and what kind of scams he's been pulling to try and do so. I mean, look, you don't think that he's capable of doing criminal things? He has no empathy. He has no sense of ethics. Of course he'll try to pull criminal enterprises. But unfortunately, if the Mueller report didn't look at that, didn't if it didn't go wide enough, if it just focused on collusion, all that's it's just going to be missed. So, oh boy. All right, thank you guys for those comments, and thank you for the super chat. So, let's move on. We got more stories here. Let's go to that. Oh, one more thing too I wanted to say. There are people that look at the type of corruption that Donald Trump is doing, and they'll be like, oh, of course. Yeah, all smart people do that. So all smart people game the system. You're the same people that turn around and blame and get mad when somebody who's on welfare decides to game that system. Is that not also being smart? I don't know. Apparently. But anyway, let's move on. All right. So a new report has detailed a high-profile defection from Fox News over treatment from its treatment of Muslims. Now, this actually happened back in 2017. Now, NPR is reporting that former senior vice president of News Corp, that is the entity that owns Fox News, run by Rupert Murdoch. The man's name is Joseph Azam, and he has revealed the reason that he felt compelled to exit the company in 2017. Now, basically, he said, quote, scaring people, demonizing immigrants, creating like a fervor or an anxiety about what was happening in our country. It fundamentally bothered me on a lot of days, and I think I probably wasn't the only one. Now, well, that's interesting. But you're probably one of the few who seems to have actually acted on that. Again, everybody else, I mean, look at some of the shows that are on there. You've got Sean Hannity, you've got Tucker Carlson, and it's not just them, right? Tucker Carlson doesn't write, produce, and do all the stuff on a show. No, he's got a lot of staffers, probably about 100 people that are producers or extras or whatever, people that write the stuff into the teleprompters. There's a lot of people that work on that show. So, and not only that, but they write the chyrons and they do the sidebars and they produce the segments. There's a lot of people that end up writing this stuff that go in to making something like this.
Your party is not anti-Israel. She is. Think about this. She's not getting this anti-Israel sentiment doctrine from the Democrat Party. So if it's not rooted in the party, where is she getting it from? Think about it. Omar wears a hijab, which according to the Quran 33:59 tells women to cover so they won't get molested. Is her adherence to this Islamic doctrine indicative of her adherence to Sharia law, which in itself is antithetical to the United States Constitution?
So that's just one example. There's a lot more. But that's the segment that proved too much for Fox News. But you have to understand, hosts on the network have done so many segments about creeping Sharia law, and Muslims are coming to kill us, and it's not just Muslims, the immigrants are coming, they're going to take our jobs, they're going to take our welfare, and they're MS-13, they're coming to kill our citizens and replace us. I mean, all this stuff you hear on Fox News, and you hear on right-wing media, and there is constant fear-mongering. This is what they do. And a lot of that stuff was mentioned verbatim by the shooter in New Zealand who targeted Muslims. In fact, you had a lot of terror attacks that targeted Muslims. In fact, I believe it was all of the terror attacks that happened in 2018 were perpetrated by white right-wingers. Not to say all white right-wingers are terrorists, but seriously, what you have is white supremacy that is leading to violence, and it's egged on by people like Jeanine Pirro and by stations like Fox News. Now, look, this stuff, as I said, it is dangerous, and it's led to other people leaving Fox, not U.S. Fox, but in other countries. A news producer told Axios that she quit Sky News Australia, a cousin company of Fox News, because of its coverage of Muslims following the shooting at Christchurch, New Zealand, the two shootings at Christchurch, New Zealand mosques. So, not only that, but New Zealand had pulled Sky News Australia from the air over its coverage of the massacre as well. So, I mean, look, there are people doing things about Fox News in other countries, but here in America, of course, we have the First Amendment. So, you can't just have the government yanking stations off the air, and I would be against that. But you do have the management of those companies pulling the plug when segments go too far, like they did with Jeanine Pirro. Now, that, of course, angers some people who feed on that steady diet of hate TV, like the President of the United States. Now, when Pirro went off the air, he tweeted this happened last week, quote, "Bring back Judge Jeanine Pirro. The radical left Democrats working closely with their beloved partner, the fake news media, is using every trick in the book to silence a majority of our country. They have all-out campaigns against Fox News hosts who are doing too well." That's, of course, when people are like, hey, do you realize, and this is where they, of course, do online boycotts and tell people, hey, look, if you're going to advertise on that show, then I'm not going to buy your stuff. Now, ironically, that is capitalism. That is people actually making choices with their wallets. So are you not in favor of capitalism? Just asking. Just asking. But he continues with this. Fox News must stay strong and fight back with vigor. Stop working so hard on being politically correct, which will only bring you down, and continue to fight for our country. The losers all want what you have. Don't give it to them. Be strong and prosper. Be weak and die. What kind of maniacal tweet is that? To be weak and die, or be strong and prosper. Are we still talking about the news station? Are we still talking about Jeanine Pirro? I don't understand. Again, Pirro, the problem with her is that she literally questioned not just Omar's patriotism, right? But whether she was loyal to America because she was a Muslim, just because she was a Muslim, right? Now, the irony here is that Omar was saying, no, I actually don't want to have a dual loyalty. She wasn't accusing Jews of having a dual loyalty. What she was doing is she was saying, I don't want to have a dual loyalty to Israel and the United States. No, I'm loyal to the United States of America. So I'm not going to bow down to the Israeli lobby in AIPAC. And of course, people like Pirro, Fox News, said, oh my God, how dare you? You are anti-Semitic. Give me a break. But see, that's what Fox News does. They lie about immigrants. They lie about Muslims. They used to lie about gay people when it was more acceptable to hate them. And Fox News has basically made a business model out of making the other, right? And telling them and telling their viewers to be afraid of that other. Because they're coming for the things that you have. There's no other way to put it, man. And while it's great that this guy quit and that Pirro was suspended, it in no way clears Fox News of the monster that it created in this country. And that monster is continuing to devour us all. Okay. So that's Fox News. Now let's make fun of a Democrat. All right. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take a quick break, grab a drink, and then we'll come back. We got two more stories, Hickenlooper and Bernie's 2020 team. So we'll be back after this break real quick. Round the nation. Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Just had to get a quick drink here. Now, let's go to the next story. Now, former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper had a very awkward story that he shared during a recent CNN town hall. Now, he was asked about a passage in his memoir in which he discussed seeing an X-rated film with his mother. Already, this is horrible. Now, he said that the movie was called, quote, Deep Throat. Now, already, oh boy. This is something that he probably shouldn't have shared, but nonetheless, in his telling, Hickenlooper said that the movie theater visit happened when he returned home from college during Thanksgiving. Initially, he asked a friend in Philadelphia if he would attend the film with him. Now, again, that is strange. Quote, we didn't know what an X movie was. We thought it was a little naughty, but we didn't think it was that bad. You gotta understand, I was 18 years old. Wait. No, I thought it was a little naughty, but I didn't think it was gonna be that bad. The movie was called Deep Throat. What did you think it was? A spy movie? I mean, come on, man. And not only that, but he was bringing his friend Jed. Also, a little strange. Okay, but anyway, after getting home from college, Hickenlooper invited his mom to the movie because she had cooked him a big dinner, and he wanted to kind of pay her back for being a good mom. So, of course, hey, do you want to come to this kind of naughty movie with me and my friend Jed? I mean, it's an X movie, and said, quote, I was sure she said she would say no. I made a mistake. Oh, big mistake. Very big mistake. And she said, look, I'd love to go because she didn't want to be left in the alone in the house again. So I took my mother to see Deep Throat. Again, you didn't think that the movie Deep Throat would be something that, like, that you should ask your mother to go to? I mean, come on, dude. Oh, come on. Now, Hickenlooper said he believed that his mom was mortified at the opening scene of the pornographic film that was described as hardcore, but did not want to leave. The movie was roughly an hour long. Now, look, to his defense, he's like, we got to get out of here. I got to go. I got to go. I said repeatedly, I think we should leave. I think we should go. And my mother was someone who rarely went to a movie. So why don't you offer to take her to a different movie? But no, she said, quote, in his retelling, she thought almost every movie would get on TV. Obviously, not this one. When she paid, she was going to stay. And at the end, she knew I was humiliated. Either she is the biggest badass troll to have ever trolled by saying, look at how embarrassed this kid is. Oh, this is great. I'm sitting here watching Deep Throat, and my 18-year-old son, he's getting really embarrassed. This is funny. Or, I don't know. I don't know what the deal was, but it's a little weird. Super, super cringy. Oh, man. Hilarious. Why would you want to stay to the end of that movie? I mean, why? There's so much that was unnecessary. Now, what's funny is that this is a guy who 538, that's Nate Silver's blog, thinks has a great shot at being the Democratic nominee. Now, aside from the cringy story like that, there's really good reason that he will not be the nominee. He's polling right now about 0 to 1%, in between. And he's somebody that actually doesn't believe in single payer. In fact, during that same town hall, he was asked about his belief in single payer. Raymond Zarian asked, quote, you came out against single payer healthcare saying that it would, quote, be premature to dramatically remake our healthcare system at this time. How do you expect voters to choose you over some of your contenders like Bernie Sanders, who had a consistent record of support for single-payer healthcare over their careers? His response is, well, obviously, I don't agree with Bernie Sanders. Quote, let's be honest, healthcare should be a right, not a privilege, right? Okay. Well, we agree with that. But here we go again. I believe I've worked for that. I helped start a community health center in 1973, and we said back then healthcare needs to be a right. Okay, still good. Not a privilege. I want to support any way we can get to universal coverage. That should be our first and primary goal. That should be our North Star. He said, finally, there are over 150 million people. Okay. So actually, before I get to that quote, I just want to point out, he keeps saying, universal coverage, universal coverage. We want universal coverage. Healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. Okay, you're saying some great stuff, right? But there's always the caveat of, but I'm not sure how to get. I agree with every other different way to get there, which means you're not interested in single payer. You're not interested in Medicare for all. You don't care. You're not going to support it. Again, saying, I disagree with Bernie Sanders, right? And in fact, he said, and this is his main criticism apparently, quote, there are over 150 million people that I can't imagine how we would pull them off of healthcare coverage that in most cases they like. Well, I've got a simple answer to that. Offer something better. And you know what's better? Medicare for all. It actually covers more than traditional Medicare. And it does it with no copays, no deductibles, expanded coverage, and it's not tied to their employers. Which means you can relocate, you can get different jobs without actually losing your healthcare coverage. That's great. Pretty sure when you look at the details of what you get in the expanded Medicare for All bill released by Pramila Jayapal in the House and Bernie Sanders in the Senate, they look at what you get and are like, hey, you know what? That's fantastic. I actually would like that better than my current coverage, which I do enjoy. And so that brings me to the talking point why I hate it so much, right? But people like their private insurance. This is why we can't offer them anything better because they like what they have. Well, look, yeah, when you have decent insurance, of course you would like what you have, especially if it's employer sponsored, right? But if somebody says, hey, man, I can offer you healthcare with no copays, no deductibles. It covers more stuff. You don't have to deal with an insurance company and actually will cost you less than the premiums that you pay right now. And you'll just have to pay them in taxes. Most people would be like, you know what? That actually sounds like a great trade. But not Hickenlooper. He's like, oh, no. Oh, no. I don't want to replace their healthcare with something better. Ooh, that'd be the worst thing in the world, especially to tell me that they like what they have right now. Ridiculous, right? And as cringy as the porn story is, what's really cringy is going against a policy that has 70% approval among the American people. It kind of really shows how out of touch you are with the American people. Okay. So, there you go. All right. I'm going to try to get through this really quickly, so bear with me. I promised this story, so I'm going to give it to you. That sounded really bad, especially considering the last segment that we did was about porn. Anyway. So Bernie Sanders has put together a brand new campaign team, and it is amazing. Now, journalist Natalie Goncharova, Refinery 29, was the first to report this, that the Sanders campaign now claims an incredibly diverse team of progressives. They said every single one of its teams, management, political policy, organizing, communications, advanced digital and fundraising, has women, and predominantly women of color, in leadership positions. Overall, the national leadership team is around 70% women. Now, I want to give you some of these hires. 10 new female staffers include Renee Spellman, who was a deputy campaign manager, who was a 2016 alumnus who had worked in the Obama White House and had supported Bernie Sanders in 2016. Analilia Mejia, political director, a union organizer who was honored by President Obama as a, quote, champion of change. Sarah Badawi, who is the deputy political director, and previously the legislative affairs director for the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, another great progressive group. Claire Sandberg, national organizing director, who is a 2016 alumnus and previously the deputy campaign manager for Abdul El-Sayed's run in Michigan. Of course, I had the pleasure of covering that campaign and voting for Mr. El-Sayed. Dr. Heather Gautney, Deputy Director of Policy, formerly a Senior Policy Advisor on the U.S. Senate Budget Committee, and a researcher for Bernie 2016. Ariana Jones, Communications Director, a Bernie 2016 alumnus with experience leading media strategy. Sarah Ford, Deputy Communications Director, a Bernie 2016 alumnus who served as the Communications Director for Cynthia Nixon's campaign. Brianna Joy Gray, fantastic progressive, National Press Secretary, and of course she worked as a senior politics editor at The Intercept. And Georgia Park, a senior social media strategist who worked in Senator Sanders' Senate office since 2016. Robin Curran, digital fundraising director, formerly the email director at the Democratic National Committee. And of course, word has also come out that Sanders has hired a former Hillary staffer as well. So that's an interesting pick. That is someone who ran opposition research against Senator Sanders in 2016. So who better to deflect against attacks from the establishment than to hire the person who helped or engineer some of those attacks, so that you better know how to defend against it. So altogether, a lot of amazing hires in the Sanders campaign. Not only that, but along with this hires, it was also announced that the Sanders campaign, their campaign workers, their staff, will also be part of a union. That is awesome and actually unheard of. They're the first to unionize their political campaign. You wanted a diverse team? You got one. This is an amazing slate of progressive champions, and I cannot wait to see what they can do together. All right. So, that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for commenting, liking, and sharing the stream. Thank you for supporting progressive, independent progressive media. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys have an amazing weekend. Thank you so much. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you all on Monday. Have an awesome weekend.